Me and Mike would say go get on appointments right now because you need movement, and then there's other times to say you got to fine tune your calling process first instead of prematurely going on appointments. Steve Murray talks about this all the time, and I'm a big believer in it, and that is if you're ever in a slump, book appointments. Like get out of it, get out of your house, get out in the world, give yourself an opportunity. When you wrote out your goals this year, what was the goal?
The goal.
What was your goal for this year?
My needle movers were minimum of 12 take-ins at $600 per week. Of that, 100 personal and 600 with the VA. And I'm gonna have 6 appointments per month, 6 offers per month. 7 of my take-ins sold.
Okay.
200. The payday one of 245,000 before the split, and a payday 2 of 2,800 per month cash flow before split.
Okay. Well, let's start with 12 take-ins, and we'll simplify that further. So we got 12 take-ins. Do we have any take-ins yet?
No.
Okay. So we got 12, and we got basically 6 months.
Yep.
Okay. 12. We got 6 months left. Okay. So let's walk through. Well, before we do that, what do you think? What do you think's been your biggest challenge so far at this stage, say in the last 6 months?
Initially, there have been different challenges along the way. Initially, it was just being consistent and making dials.
Okay.
Of course, going along with that is knowing the scripts well enough to.
Snowball effect. If you don't make enough dials, you're not getting good at scripts.
Right. So, and at this point, I think I'm fairly good with call 1. You know, I'm not super expert, but I'm pretty confident with call 1. It's moving to the next stage. I think right now that's my biggest roadblock right now.
Okay. So let's look at your week averages.
Okay. Do you want just new dials, or you want to include follow-up dials? What are?
Yeah, let's talk about. Well, just say dials in general. So, how many dials are you making on a weekly basis?
Okay, so I have, let's say for the month, this month I had 458 dials, so that's about 110-ish, 115 a month, let's say 115 a week.
Okay, so 115. And how many leads did you acquire from that 115?
Let's see. Now, those calls included follow-up calls, but I had 25 leads.
You had 25 leads out of those 115 dials?
Correct. No, I'm sorry. That's for the whole month is 25.
Okay, so how many did you get? I'm like, your conversion rates are insane. This is going to be
I just can't count. That's all. I'm the son of an accountant. I don't know what I'm doing. So about 6. I'm sorry, okay. I forgot we were doing weekly.
No, 6. Okay, how many appointments?
I've had just under 1 appointment per week.
Just under?
Yeah, it's 3 appointments 4 weeks.
Okay.
So you do, well, I guess it's 3/4 of an appointment.
All right. Well, let's start there. So let's look at conversion rates. So your dials to leads. You just take 6 and divide by
5%.
Thank you.
5%?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. How about leads to appointments?
He's got 12.5%.
12%.
Yep.
Okay. So let's just look at those two things. Okay. So 5% conversion rate, and you said that, I know you probably don't have a differential, so new leads or new dials versus old dials, right?
I have a differentiation of that if you want.
Okay, so let's look at that, because those aren't going to be...
Right. So my new dials, second. New dials are about 95 per week.
So that brings us, what, like 7%? Or
Okay.
8?
Yeah, 6%.
6.3.
Oh, we moved it up. Okay. So the next question I would have, because we don't have it on here, would be dials. This is going to be important. Dials to contacts. So how many live?
Live, yeah.
That's going to be, again, we're still working just with the new ones, right? Not the follow-ups.
Yeah.
Right.
22 per week.
There we go.
22 live?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at...
Live to lead ratio.
Yeah, well, I also want to look at live, dial to live, and live to lead. Let's look at that.
So the live to lead is 27%,
Okay.
and the live to dials should be in the 20s as well. 23.
Okay. So let's see and let's look at this, because this is the baseline for everything. Now, before we keep moving on, is everybody tracking the same way Avi is? Is everybody consistently tallying their dials, their leads, their appointments, how many contacts, so the live contacts? Is everybody doing it? Just raise your hand if you are. Put your head in the sand if you're not. Now, if anything, you should pick your head up, because we can start looking at what we're going to be tracking. Adam, did you have a question? Or are you just raising your hand? Okay. All right. So then let's look at this, because this is going to just turn into simple math now. This is going to turn into simple math. I don't want to oversimplify this, but this is what it's going to take. And if we can just hone in and focus on a couple metrics here, then we're gonna dive through further. So, all right, when we look at this, and we look at dials to live, so it's 23%. Not necessarily something you can control unless you're doing a couple things, but this may not be the main focus, which is you can always check to see and track on a week-to-week basis when you're getting the most live people. Out of that, Abby, are you tracking callbacks? Like if you leave an appointment, are you tracking how many people call you back?
No.
That is something I would recommend, because your contacts, I think we can get your contacts up by doing that. And if you haven't already, I would send Mike a couple recordings of you leaving a voicemail.
Okay.
That should get you some additional callbacks. That's something I used to track when I first started, and actually did that for about 3 years. And that way I could see if leaving a voicemail worked. And then also if you're utilizing like an automated voicemail system, like if you're using, say, like REI Black Book or something like that, where you can create a voicemail and just have it drop, Mojo Dial, things like that, then you want to check and see if that voicemail is working. So especially if you're using more automation, you want to constantly check to say, because if you're not getting callbacks, you're like, well, what's going on? That means either I'm getting terrible numbers or my voicemail is not attracting somebody. You have to think of it as marketing. I'm going to encourage you to think of it as marketing. So that's the one step that I would definitely do. One simple tweak. See if we can get those lives up. Then when I look at this, your live to lead is good. about 27%. So if we looked at that and I started to, so the metrics that I would like to consistently see that we believe, or have been proven to believe, is that we need to be somewhere between 10 and 15 leads per week and 1 appointment per week. If we want to get consistently either a deal a month or a deal every other month. Now, it's going to depend upon timing. It's going to depend upon probably your market as well and your skill set. This will be some additional factors. But we do know that if you're somewhere around 10 to 15 leads per week and 1 appointment per week, it's going to lead to about a deal a month or a deal every other month. So looking at that, it's how do we get you now? So my first thing, when I look at that, I go, how do we get you to 10 leads? Like that'd be my first benchmark. If I could focus on, if I could block out everything else, it's how do I get to 10 leads? Because I believe that 10 leads is going to get you above your 1 appointment per week. If you're sitting at roughly you're sitting at, it's like 0.75 appointments per week. So you're, what do you add?
Right, and
6, 18.
9 would get them to 1. So yeah, 10 would get them to 1, right? For sure.
For sure, yeah. Well, let's look at this. How many leads to appointment?
You got 6 to appointment. Let's see.
We can do 18, and you got 3, so it's 6, right?
so let me just throw in a little monkey wrench. The appointments, I have 3 appointments. 1 of them was with the same seller. I mean, 2 of them were with the same seller.
It's okay.
As long as you're consistently counting it the same way, it doesn't matter. If you're going to visit a house, it's an appointment.
Okay.
So, but then you have to track it like that forever, and that's how we've always tracked it. It's like if I had a seller that had 3 houses, there were actually 3 lead sheets because I'm going to send out 3 different offers.
Okay.
So when I look at this again, just walking through it, and then I'd like to get some feedback here as well. And that is, all right, if the foundation of this is leads, then we need to increase, I'm looking at if we increased your conversion rate from about 23 dials to live. So if you could get like 1 additional lead just out of those same dials, or 2 additional leads out of the same dials, I think we can get you to 10.
Okay.
So if I'm thinking in your head, I'm thinking like, all right, when I'm on the phone with somebody, how do I ask them like 1 additional question? And usually like say like that 1 additional question or 1 additional clarification couldn't be the difference between that being a lead and not a lead. Because in my opinion, if we can get you to say around 33%, so increase it by 10%, that would be basically an additional 2 leads already per week. Now that brings us from what, 24 to 32. Now we're not quite at 10 yet. So then my next suggestion would be either we need to put in more dials or we get a VA in order to support the other like 2 to 3. Or, right, here's your options. Or you go ahead and you hire a VA to get you the additional 3 to 5 and you stay consistent with where you are.
Okay.
If one of those 2 things would happen, you would get close. We'd be putting you right around 10%. So if I look at our 10 leads per week, so if we can increase your conversion rate, if we can just focus on the number from 23 to 30% conversion rate from live to lead. So 27 to about 33%. It's a 6% jump. If we can get you there, that would get you to about 8 leads a week. And then we would bring in a VA to go ahead and get you the additional 2, and they probably would get you about 2 to 5 if you're doing, say, 5 hours a week. Now we're sitting at a nice, comfortable spot, about 12 leads, which would then put you in a position to get about my guess is you'd probably have an appointment a week based upon your numbers.
Great. Looking forward to it.
And I can say the recording after this as well. Any questions specifically on that? So let's work through next steps on this strategy. So next steps, send Mike voicemail recording. to drive more callbacks. Because even that alone, if you've got a couple more people to call you back, that would actually lower the amount of dials per leads, which would then increase the amount of leads per live. Because if somebody's calling you back, it's more likely they're going to convert because they've already now created a step of commitment towards you by calling you back.
Yeah.
So you can tell they're more interested. 2 is the focus on increasing live to lead. And how are you going to do that? As I know in theory this sounds great. What you need to do is, what I'm encouraging you to do is consistently, like if you're sending Mike 1 recording a week, are you sending Mike recordings of phone calls?
I did send him one this week, yes.
Okay. Then for the next like 30 days, I would send him like 1 every 3 days. So that way you can constantly be improving consistently.
Okay.
Now I'm saying like send him 1 like on Monday.
Right.
Listen to the critiques and then send 1 on Thursday. Like don't send them 2 or 3 in a row because you're gonna probably make the same mistakes.
Okay.
No, I've listened.
No, I understand. I will. I know.
Okay, so that would be. Because getting the feedback twice a week will make a dramatic difference in getting it once a week. Especially if Mike can pick up on, I would say, especially if you can narrow in on, hey, Mike, on this call, this is where I think I messed up. So with a little self-critique. And then it's like, okay, Mike, so here's why I believe I messed up. Can you listen to this section, like a little bit before and a little bit after on how I handled the situation? Then now we improve upon that specific part of the conversation. Because we all know it's roughly like 15 questions I get asked on all of these calls, or 15 objections that we really get. Okay, so focusing on that, and then I would. It sounds like you already are, but I'd hire a VA for probably 5 hours if possible. You get 3, 5 leads. This in turn goal is 12 leads. I am curious though, how many appointments is it taking you to send an offer? Like if you go on an appointment, are you sending, like, what's your percentage?
Probably 1 every 3, roughly. But I don't know for sure. I haven't tracked that.
Okay, I would definitely track that because here's why, and some of this is just in the teaching moment here, right, with everyone here, and that is if we're watching how many appointments it takes for us to get an offer, and then really it's how many appointments does it take for us to get a property under agreement. If we're not improving upon the appointments and the take-in percentage, then we're going to have to focus on the next bottleneck, which would be, hey, I'm getting on appointments, I'm getting leads. Now it's like, how do I better improve upon the in-person conversation and the structure, most importantly, the structure of the deal by making sure I'm asking the right questions and solving their problem versus just sending an offer. So it's like, that would be the next bottleneck.
Yeah, you should be, you should be sending an offer per appointment, right? You should be. It's not going to be
right.
1 for 1, but if you're taking the time to go to the property and look at it, you've had those deeper discussions on the terms. They have a pretty good idea of how you work and how you buy. So it really should come down to your offer, right, being accepted at that point, unless there's a surprise when you go to the house and it's totally not what you were expecting when, from what was described online or on the phone, right? So it should be almost even.
Yeah, so I could be off. Maybe it's the 1 to 3 is low. Could be.
I think 1 to 3 is low. Yeah, that is very low.
Yeah, I may be at 50%. I'm not sure.
Yep,
we'll see.
That's great. And again, I'm continuing to walk through this, and then the next thing will be, all right, well, why am I going on, or how many appointments does it take for me to get a property under agreement? And then we start to look at that.
Right.
And then I would say a typical percentage is probably 25% to get started. It's like every 4 appointments. That's why, as you can see, the numbers are built around getting you on about 4 appointments, because the expectation is like every 4, you're going to probably get a property under agreement.
Okay.
And then as you improve over time, then you start focusing on that number, which, you know, so like many of the coaches, they're not going on an appointment unless they believe like they're really close to getting that deal. So that percentage will increase.
Right.
Got it. Great.
Does this
Thank you.
Making sense?
Oh, making a lot of sense.
Any questions from anybody else at the moment?
Yeah, I had something when you were talking, Avi, and Nick, or Chris. Gosh, my brain went blank. Zach,
Yeah.
sorry. I realized that, and it's only been 2 weeks that I've been going on appointments. At a couple of the appointments I went on, I went too early. So my initial numbers are going to be, because I didn't communicate clearly. And there should be a follow-up call before I'm automatically setting an appointment, no matter how much rapport I build. So that's just something I realized, whatever it's worth.
Yeah,
It's a learning process.
I like what you're saying, Adam. There's going to be certain times, and this would be based upon the cycle, there's going to be certain times in which me and Mike would say, go get on appointments right now because you need movement. And then there's other times to say, you got to fine-tune your calling process first instead of prematurely going on appointments. Steve Murray talks about this all the time, and I'm a big believer in it, and that is, if you're ever in a slump, book appointments. Like, get out of your house, get out in the world, give yourself an opportunity.